The midnight release at GameStop, one of the most sought-after moments of the year for gamers around the world. As early as 6 to 12 hours before launch, prepubescent teens and older brothers who could legally buy the game for them would camp out in front of the store with one shared goal: to be among the first to own and play the year's most anticipated release. It was an indescribable feeling. Being able to hold that physical copy of the game in your hands, reading through the manual attached to the inside of the front cover on the way home. It was one of the first ever memories that I have of being able to claim something as truly my own without my parents' aid. And displaying these discs in my TV console became a subtle symbol of status. When I open my current apartment's closet, now empty of physical games, I'm hit with a stark realization. Experiences like the midnight release at GameStop are rapidly fading into obsolescence. Think about the last thing that you bought. Do you actually own it? Can you resell it? Modify it? Are you sure? From the music we listen to the roofs over our heads, and of course the games we now play, we're slowly moving from a world of ownership to one of eternal renting. Is the convenience of these new business models really benefiting you as a consumer, or is there a deeper, devious reason bubbling under the surface that influenced this change? That's what I want to explore and find out. In the early 1990s, nobody could have imagined a world in which no extra physical space was needed to be able to listen to every song you wanted to hear. But when Steve Jobs created the first iPod in 2001 with the slogan, 1,000 songs in your pocket, everyone would soon start to understand the value of digitizing physical products. The iPod offered two legitimate paths to digital music: purchasing directly from iTunes or converting your existing CDs into digital files. This revolutionary approach to portable music sparked explosive growth, but it also created an unexpected parallel revolution. As Apple promoted its paid ecosystem, millions discovered a backdoor solution through peer-to-peer file sharing networks, allowing them to fill their devices with music without spending a dime. Websites like Napster and LimeWire used a system in which users could upload the music they owned to a decentralized server for anyone to download for free, and I definitely did not use LimeWire. Actually, we all used LimeWire as a kid. If you are a very late Gen Zer or millennial, I know you were on LimeWire searching for that Darude sandstorm. But you can see why this would be a massive problem for everyone involved in the production of the music. Artists and record labels were not receiving any royalties for freely downloaded songs and albums, and so it eventually led to these sites being sued and shut down for copyright infringement. But the damage had already been done. It became abundantly clear that the digital information age would keep spawning new platforms like this, where users looking to save money could find free versions of their favorite artists' songs with enough searching. A solution needed to be made, and it needed to be made fast. And thus, the music streaming subscription service industry bloomed. If everybody trying to get me to buy a subscription, I know browsers you can download for free got me. Am I right? There's a lot of browsers that all behave a bit differently out there, but the one with the coolest features that I've used so far is Opera. Let's say I'm making a video about sneezing and farting at the same time. I want to be able to read this article while I write my script, but then I gotta find a way to open two browser apps at once and fit them on my screen. But with Opera, all I gotta do is drag one of the tabs and they automatically create a split screen for you. Then I realize I'd rather have a summary of this page. Easy, with Opera's new Aria AI tool, you can get a detailed summary simply by pressing Command or Control on Windows plus the slash button. Cool, now I know more about what makes us sneeze. That's really useful info. Then perhaps an image of someone sneezing and farting at the same time? Perfect. And all while I'm doing this, I have one of the nicest themes I've ever seen in a browser, which I can customize to change the colors, animations, and browser sounds. Lastly, it gives you the option to pop out the music player of your choice for the subscription you're spending hundreds on per year, so you don't have to keep switching between your music app and your browser when you're doing work, or multitasking brain rot with music listening with that assignment you have due. Opera? I'm impressed. Honestly, I've seen a ton of other YouTubers talk about Opera in their videos, and when they approached me, I didn't know what to expect, but now Opera is going to be my daily driver on my laptop whenever I'm browsing or researching something. So if you're interested in upgrading your browser and using Opera and getting access to all these cool features, then you can click the first link in my description. Spotify was really the first platform to make an imprint in the scene and offered what seemed to be the perfect solution. It solved the growing concern for pirated music and found a way to create a service that was better than piracy and at the same time compensated the music industry. Spotify offers both a free version with limited features features and a premium version which is completely ad-free and gives you the ability to download and listen to tracks without data or Wi-Fi for just $10 a month. When we were all first exposed to this model, it honestly felt like a dream. I could search for any song that was recorded professionally that I want, with no ads and no potential viruses. And I wasn't even paying for each one individually. All I had to do was pay $10 a month for the platform. It was a steal. Although I might feel that way on the surface, the reality for a lot of listeners, and especially the artists themselves, can often be a lot more deceiving. For example, let's say you're like me, an average Spotify premium listener, and you listen to 15 to 20 hours of music per week. If we assume the average length of a song is 3 minutes, that means we listen to roughly 340 songs per month. If we were to buy each of these songs individually, that would cost us around $340. But with Spotify Premium, we only had to pay $10 for that month's listening. Happy ending, right? Well, if you're not a frequent re-listener like me and you're constantly listening to new songs, then yes, you as a consumer are genuinely winning this deal. But suppose we expand this phenomenon over a year and we add in the element of repeated listening. I don't know about you guys, but I'm someone who listens to the same 3 to 5 albums over and over for at least an entire year. If that's the case, and each album, let's say, has an average of 12 songs, that means I'm really only listening to about 48 songs per year. If I were to buy these albums of songs, it would only cost me $30 to $50. But with a Spotify Premium subscription, I'm charged $120 for the whole year. And as the years go on, you're paying more and more for the same songs you've always listened to indefinitely. Now, is the extra $50 to $90 per year really worth having any song that I want at any time? You could definitely argue that it is, but when you decide to use a music subscription service, your music can and will be taken from you at any time. Have a song you really love saved to your offline library? Well, if you suddenly stop paying for your premium subscription, it's gone forever. And at any time, an artist or Spotify themselves can choose to take that song or album off of their platform due to licensing problems, ownership changes, or regional restrictions. Can you imagine if you had a stack of music CDs at home, then a random person knocked on your door, barged into your living space, and took those CDs without your permission? That is what Spotify can legally do with your downloaded songs at any moment, because you do not own a personal license or physical copy of that song or album. But as we now know, it's not just Spotify. Practically all of our forms of entertainment have switched from physical ownership to subscription-based access. You can have access to all your favorite movies and TV shows at all times. You just have to pay for Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and Disney Plus, and then after a couple $100s a month, you will gain access temporarily. The companies, not you, will decide when to take certain shows and movies off their platform due to time-restricted contracts or show popularity. But let's say you end up purchasing a movie somewhere like Amazon or iTunes. That means that you can permanently watch that at any time you want because you bought it, right? Well, not exactly. Besides the obvious restriction of only being able to access that movie or show on that specific platform, which almost always requires you to be connected to the internet, when you purchase a digital version of a piece of entertainment, you're purchasing a license to access and use that content under specific terms and conditions. If you actually read the clauses in Amazon's terms and conditions, which you won't, you'd find out that access to purchase content can be revoked if licensing agreements change. That means that if Amazon's agreement with the rights holder suddenly ends, the movie or show will probably be removed from your library even though you actually purchased it. The same goes with books you buy on the Kindle platform too. And I would love to take this time because I feel it is relevant to revisit the category that started this video. Gaming. No longer are the days of driving to the store to buy a physical copy relevant. Now, instead of your physical space being partially allocated to your game cases, your drive space within your console is taken up by hundreds of gigabytes worth of digital games that you have to have downloaded if you want to fully access them. And it's damn near impossible to fit all modern games on a single hard drive. Thank God I turned into a PC gamer a few years ago. But don't worry, gaming has created their own half-broken solutions similar to entertainment streaming services. the Gamespass, which is also known as PlayStation Plus on PlayStation consoles. At first glance, the Gamespass might look like as sweet of a deal as Spotify, but for gamers. You get 100 plus games and you'll get access to many big AAA games when they come out if they are put on the Gamespass, all for just $12 a month. Most of my gamer friends are subscribed to the Gamespass, and it's usually how they end up saving money on the latest Call of Duty or other AAA title. After all, they've already paid their monthly fee for that Gamespass and are using it for a handful of other games, so technically they're just getting this new title for free, right? Well, let's create some hypotheticals again. Let's assume you only really play 1 to 3 games on the Gamespass consistently. If most AAA games are around $60, that means it would cost you $180 to buy those games and have permanent access. About $170 more than playing them for a month on the Gamespass. But if you plan to play those games for years to come, what starts to happen? You end up trapped to a monthly subscription with hundreds of dollars accrued for a game that only costs $60 to have it permanently. And on top of that, just like entertainment streaming services and digital products such as the Amazon Kindle, Microsoft can choose to take games off the Gamespass whenever they like, although they usually never do this for the most popular AAA games. If you've already sunk in a few $100 to your Gamespass subscription, then paying $60 for a game that was on there for a while will make no sense to you. Your sunk cost bias will kick in and you'll think to yourself, well, I've already been on the Gamespass for so long and I've already paid this much. It doesn't make any sense to pay another $60 for a game I was already playing that was on the Gamespass. And so with a subscription, you are now a customer for life. And if that game is free, you best believe they at the very least have a battle pass where you're forced to pay $10 a month if you want to unlock the newest guns and keep your competitive advantage. I wanted to highlight subscriptions to entertainment services at the beginning of this video for a couple different reasons. The first is that while a myriad of different subscriptions per month adds up to a stupid amount of money, it does offer undeniable benefits. For heavy users who constantly explore new content, like music lovers, these services offer both convenience and potential cost savings compared to purchasing media individually. And second, the growth of these platforms provides the most concrete example of the shift in media consumption, creation, and all ownership in general that would define the 2010s and beyond. From one of high upfront costs with lasting ownership to deceptively low monthly payments that ultimately cost consumers more. And the deeper underlying reasons that most companies switch to this model has a lot more to do with your money and information rather than providing a better experience for you as a consumer. So let's move on to a different realm of subscriptions, the ones that are necessary for our work and our lives. This might be a little hard to believe, but there used to be a time where you only needed to pay a one-time fee to have access to a software that could revolutionize the way you worked. When SaaS, or software as a service, became the industry standard, companies saw their annual recurring revenue and stock prices soar. Take, for example, the Adobe ecosystem. Adobe dominates the creative industry as they provide a whole host of software for whatever type of art you're trying to create. In the past, you used to have access to Adobe products indefinitely after a fairly expensive one-time purchase. But today, Adobe offers what is called their Creative Cloud. For about $60 a month, you can gain access to the entire Adobe suite, and an active subscription is required to be able to use any of their products now. Highlighting the price difference here is unnecessary at this point. It's obvious that after a few years, you would have paid more for the Adobe Creative Cloud than if you were to buy these softwares up front individually. What I really want to talk about in this section is the way that these companies entrap you in their ecosystems forever. When you've built workflows with these systems, these companies purposefully make it as difficult as possible to leave and export your data. For example, with Adobe products, they actually offer cloud storage for your work, but this isn't standard cloud storage. Files are organized in a proprietary way that works best with Adobe apps. Fonts, color schemes, and brushes you've collected in Creative Cloud also become inaccessible if you leave, and so most people don't end up putting in the amount of effort required to start from scratch. You don't even consider switching at the start because the deal of about $60 per month feels too good to pass up. It's only until you're too deeply entrenched within the softwares and all your work is tied to them that you realize the consequences of not being able to access your work anywhere else. And you'll lose access to all your work on the cloud too if you're suddenly unable to pay. You're almost left with no other option at that point than to stay within their ecosystem, even though better software exists that doesn't require a subscription. And honestly, I'm kind of speaking for myself here. But what about the physical items that occupy our daily routines? Surely those cannot be influenced by the rise of subscriptions, right? Wrong. Plenty of items are now being created that require you to buy a physical product from that company while also paying a subscription just to make the product fully functional. Oh, you thought you just needed to buy the Peloton bike? No, silly. You have to get a Peloton membership too so you can access the classes. You thought you could repair that brand new John Deere tractor you just bought on your own? Nah, you've got to go to a John Deere approved retailer due to the software they now use in conjunction with the hardware. And of course, we cannot forget about the largest subscription service for every young person or old person within the developed world right now: renting. As the income housing gap expands due to more big corporations making more money thanks to the fact that we're tied to too many subscriptions that make it impossible to actually own anything, which results in them buying up hordes of houses to artificially inflate prices, most people have no other option than to rent in their lifetime. And renting does seem more convenient. I get it, I like just having to put in a maintenance request and having something fixed for me in my apartment. But these corporations are benefiting from subscriptions far, far more than you are in the long run, and it's about time you start to wake up to the truth. There's even more shady stuff going on here that I haven't even mentioned yet. Kind of like the fact that every subscription service creates a constant stream of user behavior data. Spotify doesn't just know what music you like, they know what time of the day you listen, how often you skip tracks, even what device you're using. Netflix uses viewing habits to decide what shows to produce and even what thumbnail images will make you click. This data is incredibly valuable for targeted advertising and product development, and allows these companies to sell your information for insane profits. They also often create artificial tiers or limitations to push users to more expensive plans, and many services advertise monthly prices but bill annually to lock in revenue. But really, what all of this is about, besides the obvious soars in stock prices that most of these companies experience when they switch to subscription-based services, is making sure you never have enough money to buy your own assets, but have just enough money to keep giving these corporations your cash indefinitely. The truth is, with the way the economy is right now, most people can't afford to pay for each piece of entertainment or necessary household device individually. Most people can only justify a $20 a month subscription instead of a permanent $500 ownership. And that's exactly what these companies want, because if you had enough physical assets to live comfortably, then what reason would you have to give them more money? I used to be a heavy minimalist back a few years ago. My apartment only had the bare essentials, and apart from the fact that I was trying to save every cent of extra cash I had because I was much less wealthy, I also saw it as a way to clear the clutter from my mind. I thought it was the most zen-like meditative thing to do, to own as little as possible, because you feel so free and you're not tied down by anything. Back then, there was such a big push for minimalism online and how owning nothing could improve your life. But now I'm starting to realize more and more just how bullshit that is. Sure, you should get rid of and sell things you don't absolutely need. I'm not arguing against that. But if you are trying to save money, one of the main reasons should be so that you can own more of the things that you are surrounded by, instead of allocating more of that money into a digital purchase or subscription. As much as you can, start to buy the physical copy of that book you're reading. Go to the store and get the case and CD for that game you love. Buy the vinyl for that album you can't stop listening to. Fill out your living space with physical items that can't be taken away from you after a contract expires or a licensing restriction gets enacted. We thought we were saving more by avoiding these things, but it's only making us poorer in the end. Break away from these subscription ecosystems as much as you practically can, but of course when the time calls for it, you can still use the digital version of these things. I love the convenience of being able to pull out my small e-ink device on a plane without carrying around a clunky book. It saves me a noticeable chunk of space in my backpack. But at the same time, I now understand the importance and value of buying the physical book too. not just as a keepsake, but as an indication of the assets I am working on accumulating that can never be taken away from me. And that's how we really start to gain more power and control over our lives. Feels like a lot of modern life tries to make us dumber or more confused or more misinformed, and that's why I've created a whole playlist of video essays on modern issues and my approaches and solutions to them. If you want to check that out, it's on screen. Thank you very much for watching this video. I am leaving, and go own some stuff and buy some stuff. Be a consumer in the good way.